Hello, welcome to the 14th episode of the podcast. Today I'm joined by Jonathan. Would you like to introduce yourself?
So I'm Jonathan. I'm a senior studying political science with a minor in public policy. I'm originally from the Coachella Valley, and I'm super excited to be here and talk about my experiences.
Awesome. So before we dive into everything that you're doing in college and all that, we're going to go a little bit into your background. So what experiences in high school do you think that you did that helped you stand out from the crowd?
Yeah. So in high school, I had different opportunities. Like I was very, very involved. But I think what made me stand out was kind of serving on a state board. It was called the California Association of Student Leaders. I was a Southern Regional Director because of the access that I had in middle school and it was involved. And we got to not only plan local, regional, and like state workshops, but I got to meet people from different parts of the state that I would have not been introduced to otherwise. And I think that really gave me the perspective early on that like you have to take space and make space for you in a place that like there's not many people that look like you or speak the same languages as you. And so I think that really made me stick out from the crowd. And I was just overly really involved. Like I was in like yearbook and like student council for like 4 years, and had a job at the same time. So it's like just kind of that sense of like not trying to do everything and everything, but kind of being very intentional with what I was doing and, trying to make it out.
Amazing. So before we move on, what sort of workshops were these?
These workshops were essentially like leadership development workshops. So kind of talking like these workshops were made for and by the regional directors, like the board of directors of the nonprofit. And so kind of talking about not only experiences of what it's like to be a student leader, but also to kind of like breaking out of like kind of the sense of like stereotypical like thinking. So for example, like one of my workshops was the power of interactions. I think that's what it's called. But kind of like talking to people about kind of that you are the embodiment of every interaction that you've had in your life, and kind of how that kind of shapes you into who you are, and how you can use that into thinking about gratitude and kind of how to shape your reality of like not only wanting more for yourself, but also to being very intentional with the people you're around, and being just overall like grateful person into like what the kind of spaces that you're in, and kind of looking past your identity and kind of just being that person for other people.
Amazing. And so coming to college, coming to Berkeley, was there any culture shock?
Well, definitely yes, I would say. I think, well, I'm from the Coachella Valley, as I mentioned before. And I think the Coachella Valley is like 75% like Latina, Hispanic identifying. And most of my like neighbors, community members, like everyone I went to high school with, my high school was like 98% Latina, Hispanic. And so going from that kind of background to coming here to Berkeley, where not only are we like diverse in culture, but also diverse in kind of experiences, I think, but also socioeconomic status, I think coming from a low income background and kind of being like Pell Grant eligible and being like on full financial aid, but things like to scholarships and also to like things to like financial aid office, I think I saw the very like difference of that. Like everyone back home, like no one ever talked about that, but like I think here it's like you're more used to it, and so it was kind of jarring. But yeah, I think there was a culture shock for sure, because you go from everyone that looks like you to like not. So that was definitely a culture shock, and it like led me to be like isolated for like the first semester. But yeah,
So how'd you go about finding community?
yeah. So the first part of building community, I think I joined the ASUC through former president Srinidhi Gopal. I joined her office, but also to like I joined LLS my first semester of being here, and I was only in those two clubs my first semester, and like I think I like saw the initial sense of community, but I still felt very isolated just because I wasn't like making friends as fast as I thought I would, which I'm very ambitious. But to say as a freshman, like, oh, I want to make so many friends, but it's all in your own time. But I think second semester when I like continued in LLS and kind of joined ASUC campaign and found like someone I consider a mentor now, like Andrea Jimenez, like I think that's when I found community where I can like not only found people who looked like me, spoke the same languages as me, but also had the same experiences and kind of generational knowledge that kind of can be passed down to just people like a year younger than you. And yeah, I would say that.
Awesome. And so, how has your time in the ASUC been? How has it been? Like, what sort of roles have you taken on and all that?
Yeah, so I started off as a social media associate, and then it transitioned on to a campaign outreach designee through Elevate Cal my freshman year for Andrea Jimenez's campaign for senator, and then Sydney Roberts and Shri Gopal's races for executive vice president and then president. So I was super, super like in the campaign world, and I really enjoyed it. And then from there, Andrea won. She was number one ASUC senator, and then or voted. And then I transitioned to be her communications and PR executive. I really liked it. I got to really be in the community and understand not only what students face, but also to like how to bridge and kind of communicate with administration. And from that, I ran as a senator. I won. I was number 7, most voted, as a senator. And it was a really good experience, not only understanding the kind of dynamics that the like being Latina here on campus is, but also to like meeting, like I felt like we like my office did many first. Like we developed standing meetings with vice chancellors, which is usually only like given to executives like the president, executive vice president, external affairs vice president, and academic affairs vice president. So developing that relationship and kind of talking to administrators, whether that be the financial aid office, the Cal Central office, and kind of the equity and inclusion offices, like I think that was super, super important, and not only like introduced me into like people that I can like utilize as the kind of like just partners, but also like connections that I could really, really value and kind of continue to value like as I advocate for the community here.
Awesome. So it sort of sounds like you're getting involved in positions that involve policy work and all that. So what are your professional aspirations?
Yeah. So ultimately, I think within the next 10 years or 5 years, I see myself getting a joint degree in a master's in public policy and a Juris Doctorate. As of right now, my sights are set on public policy. Don't know where, but hopefully Princeton. But ultimately, I think I don't see myself practicing law, but I really understand and appreciate the concept of thinking like a lawyer and kind of protecting and interpreting law so you can benefit others. So I really think that's super important. But I think policy work is not only just communication, it's the investment into communities and budgets that not often times many people don't like think of. And it, like in order to get anything done, you need money. And if you need money, you need to talk to people and kind of have these important and like kind of create these grassroots coalitions. And I think that's super important. And I think it's necessary. Yeah.
Awesome. And so what are some ways professionally that you have started working towards this?
Yeah, so I've had these past 2 summers, I've been in D.C. And have the opportunity to, through Cal in the Capital, which is a super amazing program. Applications come out every September. But I had the opportunity through Cal in the Capital to not only live in D.C., but also to kind of be introduced into a atmosphere that I never thought I would be a part of, because, you know, I come from a low-income background, and I never thought, like, oh, I'm applying to a university, like I'm gonna be in DC, like going into my junior year and then going into my senior year. And so my first time I interned for my local congressman, and I saw the kind of the ability to not only talk to constituents of people who understood not only what it meant like to live in the Coachella Valley, but also to people who spoke Spanish and were trying to get information of like what was going on and kind of what kind of goes on behind that. And I think that introduction into policy and it kind of helping people who aren't really represented, besides but like on like the congressional side, like my congressman is the first like Latino to sit on that seat. So I think that introduced me as well. But then this past summer, I worked with the Democrats, the Democratic National Committee, as an operations intern, and I think that kind of allowed me to see both the like legislative side and the campaign side of like messaging, but also operations, and seeing kind of what the Democratic Party is, which I learned so much about it that I wish like everyone knew, because it's different, and it changed my perspective of like how the DNC actually works, like who is voting, who are these members. And I think like it was a super amazing experience that like kind of changed my perspective of like, you know, grassroots coalitions. So you know, well, like we're working towards a better like route every day, and that's obviously there's things that we don't like about government, about you know like candidates who are running, and I think this summer like really changed that with like Zoran Mamdani, and I met him actually, but
Oh, well, we're gonna talk about that later.
but yeah, so I think that's like super really like it was a very cool experience, and I think having the opportunity to not only like be there but also talk to the same people, like the culture that's there, like going to happy hour, which like was super super different, even like even though I was just there, but it was just super like life changing, I would say.
Amazing. So pulling on that string, kind of switching gears and talking more about the social aspect, like
Yeah.
how was that?
Yeah, I think ultimately at the end of the day, I think once you find your niche and kind of how you want to interact with people, you'll be like super fine. I think for me, I've learned with these past 2 summers is like to not let professionalism in a way ruin your authenticity or get in the way of your authenticity. And I think I like am very interested in like more authentic and less transactional relationships where I genuinely want to talk to a person and kind of get to know them and not just do the typical like LinkedIn, oh, what's your LinkedIn kind of thing, but kind of just talk to them and kind of like get to know who they are and kind of pick their brain and understand like how like you can't just be comfortable in the position that you're in, but trying to make something better. And I think by doing that and like utilizing like not only my experience but also kind of like what could be as like a sense of like growth. And I think that's something like that has touched upon the social aspect because like people are from everywhere and everywhere. Like obviously like you want to get more successful, you want to get higher paying job. And I think the culture in DC is just so different. Like I would explain it as like a bigger Berkeley. Like you work hard, but you also play hard. But also it's like it's just like very complex. But I think as long as you go into like with genuine intent and like good intentions, like you're gonna get that back.
Amazing. So with these sort of things where I feel like it's the social aspect is just as important as the professional aspect. And so kind of, adding on to that, I want to ask a little bit more about your experience meeting Zoran Mamdani.
Yeah. Well, it was it was like super brief. I got up like from my desk and like I like went around the corner and I hear this like super deep voice. Well, deeper than everyone else who I had like knew from the office, and I like wake up and I like stand up and I just see him. He's really tall. But I just see him and I'm like, oh my God, hi. And then he's like, hi everyone. And then like, he just went into a meeting. So I was like, it was just like super like crazy and kind of like, I don't know, like you're real.
Yeah.
But I mean, I have friends who've canvassed for him and like in New York and kind of like seen not only how he interacts with people, but kind of like I was saying, like very genuinely and kind of like changing a status quo.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely like or was a hot topic, still is on like social media right now.
Yeah.
And so, kind of switching gears and talking about more like day-to-day life of Berkeley. How do you balance everything? Because it sounds like you're involved in like so many extracurriculars, academics, and so how do you take the time to focus on your own mental health?
Yeah, I think it does get hard. But I would say I really use Google Calendar a lot. Like my life is on there. Like my first class to my last class, if I'm hanging out with a friend, kind of like every meeting that I have to go to, or like if a friend like wants to do anything, like oh check my Google Calendar. But also too, I do like allocate those times to myself of like going out with friends, going out to eat by myself, going on a walk, and I think like not only like is it kind of finding the work-life balance, but it's also too it's like I also want to be available for other people, so it's like I have time for myself that I allocate, but also too like I've always like been like open when I was a senator, like to anyone who was in my office, like oh if you ever want to meet with me, talk to me, like I think like go ahead and schedule something on my Google Calendar. Like it's always open. Like if you see a space, like just book it. And I think that's what I saw from my predecessor, Andrea. She like was very, very open. Like she was like a mentor to me. So I was like, I'd want to be that to other people and kind of bring people up with like institutional knowledge or kind of just a reference if I'm like, oh, I have a friend that does this or like kind of thing like that, because everyone who ever like like 97% of my office was Latina. And so like we come from the same, like everyone from like my office like either had like some sort of story with immigration or like family members with that. And so I think I really like enjoy the concept of like, you know, building up skills so you can transfer them to other people. And I think that's something that I really value.
And so, kind of pivoting a little bit, did you already know what you wanted to do, like professionally in high school, or were you able to like refine the ideas of like sort of the sectors that you wanted to get into, like through college?
Yeah, I think, well, right now I work for the program, but I was in Experience Berkeley High School, which is a program that exposes students from like all across California. I was from the Coachella Valley specific region, to Berkeley, and kind of the possibilities of what it's like to like be paired up with a student from Berkeley in like a similar career field of like things that you wanted to do. So I went in with the sense of like, oh, I'm going to do political science and sociology, which I was until like midway through freshman year, or sophomore year. But I think if it wasn't for the mentor that I had, her name is Alma, I think like I wouldn't have seen the value and virtue of like how powerful people's actions can do on your decisions. Like she was very patient with me. I wasn't the best student, but I like turned in my PIQs, maybe not other assignments, but she was there for me when not many people else were, and like, you know, kind of like navigating that space of like thinking that like I feel like I don't know, I feel like in high school like you think like the whole world revolves around you and like, oh, no one understands me. Which maybe it was just me. But I think at that moment, kind of being first gen, like my siblings, I'm the first I have two older siblings, like I'm the first person in my family, in my immediate family, to go to like a university or college. So, or like a university actually. My brother graduated under community colleges, but like it kind of like, and because me and my brother were going through the college experience, like I was applying to college and he was finishing community college, like there was like the overlap kind of wasn't there because he was still learning. And so I think it was just kind of crazy like being first gen and like, well, what does this mean?
Yeah.
Because like my siblings couldn't help me, and so and my family couldn't either. So I think it was just super important to have someone to be very intentional with me, like, hey, are you okay? Like, are you okay? Are you taking care of yourself? Like, it's one thing to like apply to these schools, but it's also to like understanding who you are as a person and valuing what you do. So it's like, if I didn't have someone who did that, which Alma was there for me for that, and I still talk to her to this day, then I think I wouldn't have found like the virtue of like being there for someone, because someone that wasn't there for you is like something that I really, really value. And I think I want to pass on to like my students now of like I'm here for as a resource, like no matter what, like if you want like someone to like rant to, like, oh, like this is so hard, or like, because it's hard, like no one talks about it, how like I feel like when I was in high school, like people were like, oh, junior year is the hardest, but senior year is equally if not the same as hard, because you're not only applying to colleges if you take that route, or if you go through like an apprenticeship, you like want to be an electrician, you have to do like hours and service learning and like kind of all these things. And it's like higher education is so much more than the typical 4-year university. And I think like people don't understand that, like you're applying to this, and it's like you're trying to figure out your entire life at 17 or 18 when you really don't know what you're doing at all. So I think just really being there for other people.
Amazing. And so what drives your passion?
Wow. I think what really drives my passion is like the sense of giving back. I think what I learned, like my parents separated when I was very young. But I think what I really learned from them was the sense of like not only hard work, like, because I think like many people in the Latina community come from people who are hustlers, and you know, work ethic is something that's very valued. But I think it's the aspect within the community of not only being together, in certain aspects, but also to like helping people when you don't even have much yourself. And I think I saw that really early on. But I think seeing that really was like something that I kind of saw early on, and I think growing up you don't realize what your parents like. I feel like not until you like grow up you don't realize what your parents did for you, or like the kind of things that went on in life, and you're like, wow, like I didn't realize that. Like I didn't realize like my older siblings taking care of me was like a big deal because of like the experience and like what we were going through. So it's like we like are more grateful for things.
Tying a little bit into the mental health aspect of
Yeah.
things and balancing everything. Do you think it's important to like cultivate hobbies?
Yes, I think I need to cultivate more. In high school, this is crazy. In high school, I was in color guard, so I don't even know what color guard is.
Isn't that like with the flags?
Yes.
Okay.
In high school, I was in color guard, and then I was also in theater, and then I also was in this like 4-year photography pathway that my high school offered. It was really really good. Shout out to Data, but it was like I think it was super super like. I think I had a lot of hobbies, so like even if like my mental health was like like I needed to improve it, like I think I had that kind of outlet to like not only be creative but also to is kind of like explore different like things of like dance and learning how to like more hand-eye coordination and like when you're in color guard, like you're not only dancing but you're spinning a rifle, you're tossing up in the air, and like all at the same time while navigating around like band members. Like I did hit a couple band members in my time, like during doing drill, like moving along the like field show. But I think like my brain was so stimulated, and like I actually like had like very genuine hobbies. Like I love these things, that it was just like the world was out. Like as soon as I stepped in to these things, or I was doing like the hobby, like the world didn't matter. And so I think I still have that now. Like I still like am very into photography, but I think now the hobbies sort of evolved. Like I love taking walks, like just like going out like up to like Bancroft Steps, going up to the stadium and kind of just like looking out in the viewpoint, or like I'm very spontaneous now. Like doing anything and anything, like as long as my as long as I'm available. But like as long as I don't have anything to do, like being very spontaneous, like going on a late night drive with a friend, or like driving down the freeway with like music down and blaring, or like adventuring to like Treasure Island or something. Like I think they have evolved to kind of that. But I also like love dancing still. Like put on like early 2000s music, like or like some reggaeton, like I'm there, like I'm on the dance floor. So I think they kind of evolved more socially instead of like more intimately, besides like the photography part and the walking. But yeah, I think it's super super important to find things that you like, because I still do color guard, but only when I go home, which is like every like 3 to 4 months. But yeah.
And so kind of pulling on that string, how have you found the time, or like in college, have you been able to like figure out like what your identity like is?
Ooh. Like
Or like the resources like in college, like everything around you, like you can pick whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So like, do you think that's helped you in cultivating like your identity?
yeah, I would definitely say it has. I think I have focused a lot on like policy and kind of voter protection, but I think that has all kind of centered around access. I think once you have access to things, and I think coming to a 4-year university, you suddenly like get so much access. Like I got access to health insurance. Like I've never like really before had health insurance as growing up as a kid, even as like a citizen and stuff like that. And so like I saw early on like the disparities of stuff like that. So like I have access to health insurance. Like I have access to a reliable dentist. Like and like I'm going to the dentist tomorrow. And so like having access to like the doctor, like I sprained my knee in college, like I sprained my ankle in college, so it's like having the ability to like go to a doctor like reliably with not having to worry has been really good. So I think everything that I've done has revolved around access of giving access to people of like voter education, giving access to people of like access to what resources they have on campus, or like, you know, bridging access to people, to talking to people. It's like I've connected people to other like administrators, or kind of to knowledge that I have to get things that they want to do done. So I think it's all, everything I've done, I think, has been around access, and I think that has kind of shaped my identity in the sense of like I really want to be there to support other people behind the scenes. Behind the scenes. And I think that's super, super something that I see myself doing. And I think like access is super important. Like access is like everything. Like you have access to Wi-Fi, you have access to a camera, you have access to like things like that make things easier. I think obviously it's like, you know, it's critical thinking is is like important, but having access to like resources is like something that is untapped for many people until they get into spaces like these, which is a privilege, yes. But yeah, access is important.
Amazing. So my last question to you, if a younger version of yourself was watching this, what piece of advice would you give them?
That's a crazy question. Wow. What piece of advice would I say to a younger version of myself? I would say rely on people more. Don't be too much by yourself, and that not everybody hates you. Yeah. Actually, no. You can cut that out. A piece of advice that I give to my younger self, I think it's kind of just be more intentional with myself, the other people I was around, because I think at the end of the day, like the people that you have around yourself who are willing to not only grow alongside you, but being open to kind of things is super important. So I think as a kid, I wasn't very open with other people because, you know, people don't talk about emotions enough. And so I think just be more open. And I think if you don't have to be by yourself to like really like make something out of yourself. The most success stories come from people who asked for help or like have had people to help them. So I think just be more open to like help.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking
Of
the
course.
time to come on the
Thank
podcast.
you.
And see you guys in the next one.